Yo, what is going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me for another video, and in today's video we're going to be going ahead and crafting some theories as well as taking a look at some clues from previous chapters and episodes of My Hero Academia to see who possibly could be the UA traitor. And before we get into the video, guys, I want to go ahead and let you guys know thank you so much for the support on my previous videos. It does mean a lot to me. And if you guys want to, at any point in the video, please leave a comment in the comment section down below and let me know what you guys thought of the video, as well as some future video suggestions. I'd definitely be interested to see those. And also, before we start the video, guys, some of these theories are not mine personally. I want to go ahead and get that out there. I will be crediting all of the people that have contributed to the Hagakure / Invisible Girl sort of theories in the community, so I definitely don't want to rip those guys off. I definitely want to give them full credit. I'm not in any way, shape, or form taking their ideas or their theories. I'm just going ahead and elaborating on them in the video and really hopefully giving them more exposure. So I will be crediting those guys and leaving the links to their Reddit posts down in the comment section below. And without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump straight into the Hagakure Invisible Girl theory. Starting off the video with a theory that is pretty commonly known within the My Hero Academia community is the theory behind Hagakure claiming that she was with Todoroki in the landslide zone during the USJ invasion. Now, this theory stems back all the way to season 1 during the USJ invasion by the League of Villains. This theory comes from when Kurogiri teleports all of the UA students across the whole USJ stadium. It is then that all of the students of Class 1A are teleported by Kurogiri across the USJ in randomized groups. These groups consist of Group 1 being Midoriya, Mineta, and Tsu, Group 2 being Yaoyorozu, Jiro, and Kaminari, Group 3 being Tokuyami and Koda, Group 4 being Sato, Shiro, and Ojiro, and finally Group 5 being Todoroki as well as Hagakure. Group 6 with Bakugo and Kirishima. Amidst all the chaos transpiring between the groups of Class 1A as well as the League of Villains, Hagakure afterwards makes a claim stating that Ojiro fought well. Looking back at this quote, it definitely can bear some significance when thinking about the UA traitor. Considering how would Hagakure even have known that Ojiro fought well if they were in two totally different zones during the invasion? When taking a deeper look at this, we could definitely see how some people could brush this off as maybe being just sort of a jab at her invisibility quirk, but I really don't think so. I think giving the benefit of the doubt to Hagakure with this much evidence leaning towards her would be kind of just brushing it under the rug, so to speak. But let's move on. Moving on to the second piece of evidence that we have towards Hagakure being the UA traitor is when all of Class 1A was tasked with choosing a class representative. Hagakure instead did not vote for a class representative, but instead suggested to everyone that they should go to the mall. And from that point on, both manga and anime watchers and readers know what happened during that time. It was during that time Shigaraki had met Midoriya and firmly almost killed him, threatening him, and also explaining that his quirk is only activated when all 5 fingers touch a certain object. Midoriya only then just barely escaped being a hostage of Tomura Shigaraki in the League of Villains. Now, many in the community simply brush this piece of evidence off as pure coincidence, seeing as how Shigaraki only went to the mall as he stated to the League of Villains that he wanted fresh air. Now, you could tell yourself, surely if he had a tip from Hagakure that they were going to the mall, he could have had all of the League of Villains lie in wait there and ambush Midoriya and surely capture him that way. Seeing as how Shigaraki isn't really developed as a villain and as an antagonist at this point, it would definitely make sense that Shigaraki just wanted to tease Midoriya instead of truly making him captive yet. But seeing as how this is the second piece of evidence towards Hagakure being the UA traitor and being in cahoots with All For One as well as the League of Villains, now I personally don't believe this to be a coincidence looking back at this, considering how everything worked out pretty much seamlessly with Shigaraki as well as Midoriya. At the time of watching the anime, I definitely had no suspicion of Hagakure ever doing such a thing, and really kind of just brushed it off as it kind of being a bad play of events. Pretty much like everybody in the community, there was no real reason to suspect anything had happened at that point now until we have chapter 335. With this chapter of 335, I definitely feel as though we can't let anything go uncontested when it comes to the UA traitor theory, seeing as how anything such as this can be linked to All for One in the League of Villains and thus linked to the traitor. So do I feel as though this is a credible piece of evidence? I do. I do feel as though both the evidence presented here in the mall incident as well as the USJ piece of evidence are both valid in confirming or at least heavily implying that Hagakure. And just before we move into the next piece of evidence that I have towards Hagakure being the possible UA traitor is how I want to discount any theories towards Aoyama being the UA traitor. To me, I feel as though this is just people stemming back to when Aoyama and Midoriya had that sort of suspicious thing going on when Midoriya was having trouble with One for All. To me, Hagakure's evidence firmly outweighs any of that of Aoyama's, and I feel as though pretty much within Aoyama has been resolved at this point in time. Seeing as though we are still connecting the dots between Hagakure, I feel as though a case with her being the UA traitor is a lot more plausible in this time. And moving on to the final piece of evidence that I want to talk about towards Hagakure being the UA traitor comes courtesy of a Reddit user on the My Hero Academia community called Jiro is Best Girl. It is in this post that Jiro elaborates on how he makes connections towards Hagakure being malicious in the Make My Story opening of My Hero Season 3. Now personally, when I was first watching this opening, back when I was watching the anime, I literally didn't think anything of it. It wasn't until the most previous chapter in 335 of My Hero Academia with the new traitor and as well as the Hagakure theories coming out that I didn't really start to give this theory a proper analysis. In this theory, if we take a look at the Make My Story opening in Season 3 of My Hero Academia, we can see all of Class 1A sitting atop rocks all together with Hagakure standing in the middle. Now in this theory, it states that if you look closely, you can see how Hagakure's hands are sort of surrounding and around Midoriya. Now personally speaking, when I was watching this over again, it did seem to play a little bit of resemblance towards a sort of foreshadowing towards Midoriya and Hagakure, and maybe Hagakure and all of Class 1 together. At first glance, this could just be seen as sort of a quirky thing done by Horikoshi and the animators, just sort of showcasing on, how she's very invisible and you can't really see her without a very distinct and obvious sort of showcase. But with the new recent discoveries of the traitor and Hagakure being front and center, I feel as though this may have more of an eerie foreshadowing than we once initially thought. With Hagakure's hands being ominously wrapped around Midoriya, it really could foreshadow how Hagakure is going to play a very major role in being the UA traitor moving forward in the manga and in the show respectively. Now personally, do I believe this to bear any sort of resemblance or significance to the UA traitor theory? And that would have to be, I'm sort of split on the decision in thought. I'm sort of 50-50 on this theory as of the moment. I don't really feel as though it was made intentional. I feel as though this is just kind of a sort of quirky and funny thing done by Horikoshi and the animators to kind of get the viewer to see Hagakure as just not seeing like an article of her clothing in the background. It's not kind of making her the centerpiece, seeing as though she's invisible, so you really wouldn't pay attention to her. But on the other hand, I can see significance to this, seeing as though everything is pointing towards her being the UA traitor at this point. It definitely could seem like the animators had a heads up of Horikoshi's plans towards the UA traitor and wanted to sort of give us a subliminal hint and sort of foreshadow that she would be making that role as the UA traitor. And wrapping up the theories and pieces of evidence that I have Hagakure being connected to the UA traitor, I wanted to go ahead and give you my thoughts on all of these theories. For theory number 1, containing the USJ invasion, I do feel as though that was a subliminal hint towards Hagakure being the UA traitor early on in the series. Considering how she had no possible way of knowing if Ojiro was okay and fought well, considering their distance towards each other almost assuredly insists that she is heavily implying that she knows something that us readers don't want her to know. This also could be a just slip of the tongue that Hagakure had in not knowing that she wasn't supposed to say that, perhaps making people more suspicious. Well, I think it worked, because in doing so, no one in Class 1A was suspicious of her at all in the least bit, in telling everyone Ojiro fought well. So finally, I do believe this piece of evidence is valid when talking about Hagakure being the U.A. traitor. And moving on to our second theory of how Hagakure could be linked as the U.A. traitor is when she insisted for all of Class 1A to go to the mall. Now, I am subscribed to this theory just because I feel as though it was a little too premeditated for Tomura and Midoriya meeting at the mall the way they did. Now, a lot of people could counter-argue this by saying, well, if they had intel on this, why didn't all of the League go after Midoriya at this time, knowing they would be at the mall? But you have to remember, Tomura was the only one that wanted to go to the mall in the first place. The other League members tried to talk him out of it, but he was very insistent in him wanting to go. Another argument could be made is that All For One knew of this beforehand and perhaps persuaded Shigaraki's opinion and persuaded him to go to the mall by himself. This could also be a way of All For One manipulating Shigaraki from the shadows and trying to enlist fear in Midoriya in both Class 1A. And to me, I just feel as though everything was set up a little too meticulously between the two in this scene. So definitely, I feel as though this theory is definitely connected to her being the traitor. And taking a look at the Make My Story opening theory for Hagakure being meticulously shown in the front runner of Midoriya with her hands around it. Now personally, I do believe this theory could either be true or just be sort of like fans looking a little too much into it given the last panel of the chapter. I don't feel as though it's set in stone that this is a real theory or this theory to be true in any way, because if it does turn out that Hagakure is not the traitor, then it really means nothing. But as of right now, I feel as though it's more of a cool little theory than anything. I don't feel as though it's too... I feel as though it's just what it is, right? It's a subliminal theory that definitely could hold weight if it turns to be true that Hagakure is the traitor. But in the case that she isn't, and Horikoshi throws a 180 at us, it just could be nothing but a sort of comedic way of showcasing Hagakure in the final sort of shot of that opening for the show. And moving on, I want to go ahead and wrap the video up by explaining why I feel as though these theories could bear any weight towards her being the traitor. I feel as though throughout the duration of both the manga and the anime, Hagakure is very overshadowed, quite literally and figuratively, seeing as though she's invisible all the time. This could be a simple case of her just being so sad that nobody ever pays attention to her. How would that make you feel, not being able to be seen by your own friends, let alone the viewers? It must devastate her going every day of her life not being able to be seen or complimented or anything of that sort. Perhaps she could be working with All For One just because she wants him to take her quirk away so people could finally see her, because I feel as though that would be a pretty just way on having Hagakure sort of being tied in with All For One. Seeing as though a lot of people, I feel as though Horikoshi could be making a parallel towards how some people in real life saying they just wish they were invisible. Sometimes having that wish isn't as great as it sounds. Being invisible in Hagakure's case is actually sort of a prison, seeing as though she can't really have that interaction with people how other people in the show and her class have that interactions. And that's going to wrap up the video for today, guys, on the theory of how I believe Hagakure is the U.A. traitor from chapter 335 and predating this chapter. So let me know what you guys think. This chapter, or this video rather, sorry, actually took quite a little bit to come together because I was taking different excerpts from the manga, from the openings, from the show, just a lot of different medias I wanted to go ahead and cover, as well as stumbling across some Reddit users' sort of theories, and also taking a look at that and seeing how plausible and tangible those would be when actually analyzing Hagakure and her behaviors in the manga. So if you guys did enjoy the video, please go ahead and give me a like. Let me know what you thought of the theories and the videos down below. Is there a theory that you believe that was not stated in the video? I'll greatly appreciate any theories in the comment section. I definitely will read them, and I will see you guys for another video. Thank you so much for joining me on another video, and I hope you guys have a great day. See ya.